Mudlark. On evenings like this one, an evening like tonight, we like to crawl from our beds of linen, cotton wool swaddled, to shake off any sleep that tries to crawl back onto our reluctant skin. When all the lights shut off, cold and silent, as though a set has been constructed attuned to electronic harmony or lack thereof, to create a state where our blood rushes like pythons lying low, we crawl from our thrones, bed overthrown, silent feet and padded paws, we slide out from our shelters, doors, homes built of bricks and concrete melted, splat. Our time frozen. An alarm clock stuck on one, no tick-tock, no heartbeat for this home, but for the love that ever grows, lawn ever mowed, height marks in door frames, don't tiptoe, mark the time, date, shrug off belated birthdays, candles, burnt smell when a tea towel catches flames, but not a home of dismay. One of unending play, concrete framed. We slink out, silent as mice, door shut slow, shut quiet. Pencil marks left hanging on the wire for another day to stop and admire, but at this hour we are on fire. Bioluminescent glow in our lungs, in our blood, we make our way down to the mud still padded underfoot. We watch around for even any tiny sound, not to quell or hush or to put a stamp on something that is not ours, no, we just feel a rush. And we can't see any stars through muddy fog, but we don't fuss. This glimmer in our eyes is more than enough. And so we've been told to give ourselves love. When the trees and the sun and daylight sing as one, they adore the smoke, the hate, the despair. Their roots are strong and they belong, stars in eyes. It's not long until we reach the mud. Peace in hearts like a bird feeding its young, we relax in, deep, breathe, we sink earth basin, controlled. To breathe and feel what fossils know is to speak prehistory like it's our first word, mud on skin, skin to earth. Small rotations in the ground, impossible to drown, silk mud shared, unforgotten cries of past years. Past lungs present in bubbles and gold coins deep, breathe steam and gleam. Respire, repose, heated under floor, grit in my pores. I sink to the highest place, and when the night is almost at its first yawn, we step out. Dry off, mud cracked, we fly with the bats back to homely town, back to our house where teddies lay in cupboards ready to greet us as if it was the first time we two collide. Granted, retrospect makes for heavy eyes, so sleep. Go to bed. Your linen throne to see the night out, flaked mud your own. Dawn soon to break today, foxes out to play, patters of school runs and work calls done till dusk is on its way. Then this, your time will come again. To be in mud is to be born again, and again, and again.
The Ancient Man. An ancient man lives near here. Well, somewhere around here at least. This is fact. And tonight's moon marks the turn of a century. I brush my hair ready for evening's retreats and I blush my skin, though inanimately, procedurally, with cardboard boarding my thoughts. Here we are taught from infancy that we are the warriors of the land. We learnt to name the trees and bees and would often call to them, to meet our friends in their vicinity, each named landmark pressed into the earth. Each second, the ground upon which we step would somehow nudge up towards us, learn our secrets, then settle in a formation that spelled our own names. Each footprint, each second, each pattern indented accordingly. We used to wear his garments, the ancient man, or garments we supposed he ought to wear, capes and the like, draped, consolidating increased cocoons of greys and charcoals or deep burgundy and bottle green. The colours of our capes adapted to the seasons, as did the intensity of our childish smiles. Tonight was not a night for dressing up like the ancient man, as we had done so many times in years past, giggling, pulling bedsheets and rags about ourselves. I dressed as myself. Plain and simple. My clothes sometimes cling to me, other times they hang as though escaping, but tonight they sat on my skin politely. I stepped outside and rubbed my face, once again bare and undeniable, blusher tea staining my fingertips. The ancient man is said to live by the sea, with 2 feet soft in the ground, arms caked in sand, hair of a navy blue hue in book pages stamped. Regrets, single and silent, raised about his head like flies, orbits. I found myself walking in his direction, and though no one knew on which stretch of sand the ancient man stood, I felt as if I knew where to find him. Though knowledge in this case acted more as a reassurance to my body's determined swiftness than to any illusion of facts found. I felt tiny things tug at my hair in short bursts, and my toes, by now pinched with bites. Sand mites, I'd have thought. I'd have said if my body had not been rushing ahead and leaving my thoughts panting and sweating quickly behind. The ancient man was responsible for the production of paraphernalia that characterised this place. Shaky stalls sold mugs, fridge magnets, pencils cast in that distinctive navy blue that defined, or at least tried to define, his intentions. In sketches and prints, he wore tattoos of forgotten creatures about his torso, compact, woody and wintry. It seemed as though the only aspect of him left untouched in local tongue was his voice. And I shared the frustration of generational artists who time and time again omitted voice from his depictions rudely. Any attempt of mine to divine his voice by awarding song to sea air would result in crackles and coughs. And so each attempt to find his voice crashed down into the waves and took pieces of me with it. My thoughts caught up with my fervent body as I came to a halt, my bare feet spraying sand. I hopped onto a small mound to pay my respects to the sea. I wanted to be framed, to be pinnacle lighthouse. From here, the water was a deep blue, as though sheets and sheets of blue plastic had been pressed together to form this great shimmering sculpture. The spontaneity of tonight's venture, coupled with the distant hum of cicadas, caused my neck to prickle. I had not planned to be here tonight, as such. In fact, I had received plenty of offers to spend the evening in the clustered parts where damp memories clung to the ceilings, or else in rooms where polished white walls beamed industrially. Any memory that tried to stick to them would slip into puddles on the floor. I had quite enjoyed creating excuses for my absence at tonight's many gatherings. The initial fear of developing outrageous plots soon died away, and even I had been surprised by the conviction in my voice when I told tale of miscellaneous preoccupation. I always preferred the rust to the shine, the silence in dismay. I buried gifts received rather than flaunting them, so each palace or path would fill me with the kindness of others. I wondered only for a second what treasures were being buried right now in the void shaped like me in busy rooms. Here, my little heart danced in my chest on open beach when swathes of giant feet danced in tiny rooms mere miles away. Those footsteps can be heard but can easily be forgotten. And my feet had half sunk into the soil, my hair silver against tonight's moon. I listened to the sea, and here I was, the century turning in my hand.
Final bows in eternity. I have waited for the sky to descend upon me, its edges collapsing to envelop, safely, slowly, to then in later times steal what fabric remains, in blossom of paper hold it dearly to the sun to savour. In 4 grave gusts of wind I fly, folk choirs chime, and 2 feet land on solid ground to bristle and brush, clay and lime. We danced between thick mud and moon, and traced thin scribbles in the soil, We scuffed and jived in smoke and fire, hot embers in our hands. Amongst strong whispers and twisted things, a learned voice proclaims, "Sanctuary is what we have learnt, to bathe in it today." We climb too high on branches to glimpse a signal fire. At first it's flitting, disruptive, emitting, yet as time flows coarsely, it now seems syrupy and slow, pushing and brave. A stammer, a stagger, weak sheen on pinkest sky, we blanket and swathe together. Dusk eye, dusk fall, where glances smell of flowers, and where mud becomes our throne. We danced between the mud and moon, hand to hand and bone to bone.
A meeting. I am a deep-sea diver from weir about 3 feet high. I was a deep-sea diver with fingers of seaweed, unimaginable, sturdy things, eyes like moon. Tide song sings on violin strings as salt eyes sting to me, to my deep-sea diver of 3 feet high. I am a deep-sea diver from inhale of first stretch, first breath taken below the waterline, before watchful eyes, before stunted times, a line from conception, tidal motion divine. I climb, ladder, 1 step, 2, 3, and plunged, though not plunged, rather swaddled, swallowed, and so fogged ears make for quiet mind, and so, 4 minutes pass, 4, 3, 4. I am the deep-sea diver. My hair is coral and summer green garden playtime scene, waning, explaining, delaying. 5 minutes in, I am aware of my legs, my arms. Seashell critters filling slow as if sand dune calling lonesome tune. Kisses and embrace. Kisses and embrace. Embrace my sand skin, my sand brow, my oughts, noughts. Must still wrap around, sea wash. Sea wash. I, a deep-sea diver. 6, 7 minutes in, I stare within. I stare within, each blossoming limb, each synapse hushed, each morsel seems only to begin. Stop. Begin. 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 Leviathan. Living beast, your eye stares and your body speaks, no tongue of mine, a deep-sea diver's stolen chime. I see you, Leviathan, your calling heart. I see you, strong Leviathan. I have seen you since my fingers could count themselves. I've spoken your name in dozens, 12s. I've seen your image on slanted shelves. You take me in. Deep-sea diver, lips thin. My hair of coral in brine, you take me in.
Forest business and talk of legs. This is an enchanted woodland, or so it is said to be in those various myths sprinkled through time into waters and soils, germinating there quietly with a lasting consequence. Today I am walking with resolve. I am walking with contentment and a sort of singularity that only lets itself be seen away from the noise of the city. And how glad I am to be away from the city, at least for now. I check my pocket out of habit. My compass is still there. Good, it is at home there. It belongs there. Its brass exterior means it can slip from the hand, and what I do not want, what I would never want, is for that tiny piece of machinery to slip from my grip and hurtle down into the undergrowth, falling, waving for eternity. As I walk, I wonder how my legs must look to strangers. I think to myself, I should be a giraffe. Their legs are honest. They are full frontal. They are out in the open, out and proud. Looking down at my legs, I feel a sense of unease, one that brings a sort of dew to my forehead, a spike in body temperature. I look at my legs, clothed in an inelegant man-made material which acts as a kind of loose cocoon for my peg legs. Legs like pegs, wooden, infantile, charming for a moment, but soon unpredictable and messy. I sigh. Enough about that, I think. We've more important matters at hand. And so we do. This thought does not lie. We do have more important business to do, but business in its traditional sense and not confined by its contemporary connotations of narcissistic suits and scandals. 80 seeds sit quietly in a folded piece of kitchen paper in my back pocket, plucked this morning as if prize feather. These seeds are awake and are nervous in their own way, for those tiny things are often moved and hardly ever forceful enough to move anything themselves. Just for a second, my mind moves elsewhere. I sniff. That's the whiff of pine I find when I cast my mind back to the lakes and semi-brine. It's the moon that shines so late at night when cheesebugs climb on clothes of mine, and hands are held, wild blueberries wrapped in twine, and words are hushed for peace of mind in the coloured road signs and books with spines, and... Pine holds a place in my heart, and my heart holds a piece of pine. But right now my pocket is bursting with seeds. Yes, this is our business, I say. Walking has become a pastime. It has cut itself free from the vines placed upon it. It is free, wild as jaguar and quiet as mouse, simultaneously. It can be bitter, spiteful, hurtful even, but provides a natural sanctuary for myself and others gone. I consider my peg legs as I walk, and I consider how many other peg legs have trodden in this ground, disturbing the undergrowth as I do now. I wonder how many peg legs still stick out of the soil like stakes, or how many are submerged and are warmed by the earth's own core. I wonder how many pegs stand respectfully, with ribbons and other memorabilia tied around them, or words carved into them carefully, tucked behind bushes or by ponds. I wonder how pegs both great and small are yet to venture here. I halt. My foot comes to a stop, and all this talk of pegs dissolves from my mind, as I am reminded my feet and legs are muscular things. Not quite the legs of a giraffe, yes, but satisfyingly elegant nonetheless. I remove my rucksack, which has felt nothing more than a burden all morning, and drop it to the ground in a snivelling heap. I reach into my back pocket and unravel, with the utmost care, my 80 seeds. With my rubber toe cap, I scuff the soil in this precise spot, because this is where the business begins, where it must begin. I take my 80 seeds and pour them into my palm like waterfall, and once in hand, then to the soil. And here I place thought too into the soil, some thoughts of encouragement for the seeds, and other thoughts of a personal nature, bookended with the memories of coastal spray and good friends. I claw at the dislodged soil, hold it in my hand for a brief second, then sprinkle it atop the seeds. I stand again upright, brush my trousers down. A brief sigh escapes from me with an audacity. I press down on the soil with my shoe. My business, I think. My business is done. Windred. Atop cliff, green soil, white apron dips to the sea. If one looks closely with the eyes of seagulls and other creatures of flight, one will see him on tiptoes poised, dressed in lily-white flannels and drapes. Within his furrowed brow lies a valley, and his cheeks a rock face, rubble and fall. He is missed as though forgotten, but from clifftop he sees all. Great arms emerge from the cliff, palms facing open and unquiet sea. Atop the crag he is lashed by the wild blow, swift wind rippling with liquid ease on creased whites, and with each great gust, dandelion parachutes explode from him. When bare feet on loam tread, Sundance has made its daily draw. The beady eyes of birds warn of angels in the sky.
Sun-kissed. Sometimes I shut my eyes so tight before bed and lean into the lamp beside me. I pretend that I am hovering, limbs primed for languidity in front of the sun. I've put on my best outfit. You know the one. I hover there with such ease, and the stars around me seem to know my name in all its detail, as if they'd seen me, as if they'd recalled all my thoughts, however petty and trivial. "Hello," they'd say, politely, kindly, and I would respond with a knowing smile, as if to say, "So nice to see you again, old friends." And I am accepted, as family or kin, though most human in my ways, for my blood runs warmly in my veins. The sun can thunder and burn as hot as it may, and it will spit and rage from time to time, expelling misnomers and mistakes thrown into it with lack of tact. It will swallow and taste, digest perhaps, and then with its brain of lava and hot metal it shall make its choice, whether to remain object or to retreat untamed. And I hover as witness to confirm, silently to experience. My face is warm, and I feel as though you have kissed me. Twice, 3 times, indefinitely. I feel as though the stars can now write my name in astrodust, backwards, sideways, always, and I hover there, in front of the great fire. A ballet unfolding beyond and beside me. I pose a question to the sun, with politeness and delicacy of tongue as one formed of ribbons fine, a question for the day, the month, or questions that rippled from me in my first cry. I hover in silence, waiting for the sun to digest, and digest it shall, in good time. Till then, I repose like final breath before bed, my body soft, held together with the strongest bones. Swimming amongst stars and fireflies. I look down to my hand to see my name etched in silver and gold. Never ever have I felt as beautiful as I do now. I thank the sun and the stars, and I sleep beneath cold metal sky. Sun-kissed, star-born. Lights off, and the sun keeps on burning.
Calling, calling. When you were born in the flower, you waked your eyes and allowed the air to lick, and you slept patient and quiet without making a sound. Without grounding round about a whirling disturb, it was you who were silent, waiting in the flower. And for this we say that you were special. The time came then, as it always would have, that a flower opens and you were to be released, and you relished each second. Each closing minute the petals opened, you laid your hand upon with quaint jest. Opened the flower, and released much like seed, you came floating down on parachute of petal from air to ground. Swinging, you let yourself be carried because you knew that soon you'd be running, and you did. As you landed, your feet touched the ground and soft knees welcomed you home, feet running. Solid ground had been there in dreams and in imaginary instances that you crafted quietly in your flower. Now you are running, and how glad I am.
Tea Party.
If I asked you to paint a picture, what would it be?
Gold frame, sun rays, a memory. There is a clearing in the forest, an early autumn air, or some might say earlier in the year, last breaths of summer. A wander through the manor. I tap into empty space, build blocks in the thinnest early autumn air to bind words and tropes onto the sun's own rays, beams for cold knuckles hanging on for hope. A cricket sighs for season's turn, all for despair. Amongst gold scaffolds in empty air, in nearly frost I climb and swoon, simple marsh, the cricket's lonesome tune. I learnt to glide in conversation, to bend the olive branch, shelter from curse's storm, and now I glide in earthy condensation. Autumn air becomes my hall. And on our cricket's final note, which guides the way I move, I hear a din of other worlds, raucous, riotous, rude. A clank and shove moans in the distance, as if to mark a subtle disagreement, a heaving orchestra there in the woods, in early autumn air. Pitter-patter, clatter. Chaos reeks and makes the bushes jump. I am cross. How I long to dance the final dance to the old cricket's blues without such disturbance. So, I approach the din before the first leaf falls to seek out this silence's intruder. To turn the corner to this next sight is absurd, catastrophic in its essence. A dozen beasts, a herd, a tea party in the woods without the silly hats. Instead they wore gigantic horns, the kind of fighter tracks. They bellowed and laughed, these great lurking things. With the whitest fur, the kind a snowfall brings, their breath convulsed before their long faces, melting and dissolving against the blue in traces. I hated to interrupt, though I had been interrupted, so kept quiet and meek, perched between the branches. Might I approach the beasts? Might I politely question their choice of day, of time for such a foray? To gather in the woods to grasp the last sun, as I, quite obviously myself, had done. But these beasts wore white capes, fit for kings and queens, yet in their face an eerie sensibility. I decided to plant my feet. I shan't approach. I shan't query. The longer I waited and watched, breath bated, I longed to speak in their groans and barks, to live and grow in this crude way, unadulterated, holding the innocent freedom of the parks. My sweet intrusion at the tea party by the woodside, I throw away my pride and release, to honour their irrefutable life. And even in winter's ice, a dozen deer of lily white shall skate upon the frozen lake in crisp, snow-scattered air. And in summer's air, take shade where I do now, or over there, beneath that tree that sees so much, births, deaths, life as such, where antlers are sharpened 4 seasons round, this throng of deer on their own fair ground.
Soil Song 2035. I take the time sometimes to retrace my steps, Not in search of footprints that bear my name, but instead to find the thread that has been woven, strings like DNA coursing through the soil in my particular shape. To remember sandy shores trodden is to smell the sea, seaweed rotten. It is to feel the burn in open wound, effect, sensation, resume. Or else to see your palm imprinted by grass, so you dip in ink and stamp solid to immortalize. I come here today to wonder where those beasts have gone that brought me peace to a place beyond. Hooves scuffed and flies hovered around their eyes, but slow breath, like guttural machine work, took me back to my mechanical ties. Arteries, veins provide me with life, but now my beasts are gone. This ground seems unalive. I want to shield your eyes. See, my friends used to live here. I'd walk about 5 minutes from Grandma's house. On summer days when I used to wear a vest, can you imagine that? Just a little hair on my chest. I used to come to find a peace. I'd look into their eyes, wise eyes, eternal eyes, though at the same time the sad eyes of those who travel between the fabrics of our lives, of what is to come, of what shall become. I take you on a whistle-stop tour around the parks and gardens and hills that bubbled beneath my skin and bulged as shoulders, nose, knees, born with smooth, stark edges pulled from the soil, wiped clean, prepared for each moment until now, bursting with a life source, we stand still. What's that there, you ask, pointing to this gap in the grass? That's a scar, I say, turning away, hand over my face. You see, a strange memory is one that is broken into 3 by these kind of ravines. I need to take a moment, excuse me. That's where I used to run free. We retrace our steps. I trace mine back, looking, stumbling, searching for tracks. Your little paw prints avoiding craters shaped like history. I turn to see a smile beaming up at me. What a day for a walk. What a day for a walk. 1, 2, 3 cracks and counting, and seawater stinging, dry skin, tears forming from within. But I see a smile beaming up at me, and I let you in to my adventure map of the land, of spiders and worms, of little black ants and smelly germs, woodlouse and greybacks hiding under bricks, avoiding the bumblebee, guarding from ticks. We bounce and dive and duck and swim. What a day for a walk, what a day to begin. And as we settle down to forks from the past piled high, letting out sighs of relief, of how we feel free, how it feels to be, how it felt to be. Outside, away from this home, those threads like DNA that wove you and I into the earth, held together by time, creatures of beneath, and melodies of the thudding of hearts, are looser now. They are showing. Like open nerves, they flex in the sun, drying between earth cracked and whacked and smacked, and earth that lacked, earth attacked, string snap. Stop. A smile beaming up at me. Another thread is growing beneath the ground, this one like the string of a harp that plays invisibly throughout the night.
Mountain Mine. Shadow puppets dance on a stage, casting shadows. They come to life in a way. Though brittle and paper-like, the shadow puppet never fades or wanes, nor does it reduce itself by colours or features. It remains whole and moves before your eyes on bedroom walls or brick exteriors amongst fickle fires, air thick with marshmallow magic. A particular youngster becomes enchanted by what he sees. Adults cackle in the background, laughing like dragons in cold air, letting out sighs and what can you do's. But this youngster was all too used to lazy platitudes, so he paid no regard apart from what he saw before him. A shadow puppet appears to greet him, to bow. It tips its hat. The youngster meanders his eyes around this friendly figure. This figure that tipped its hat with marshmallow magic melting in the backdrop. A young boy stares at his shadow puppet. And now you are older. This is a quiet time.
This is a quiet time. Words all too small, all too brittle to handle heavy work and sweat for, and words have been coming fast, contorted and frozen mid-sequence. They blurred my vision and my pitless pool deepened, and now words float around on its surface, broken or weakened. Lost in translation, I hear words in a language unknown, as if input function has itself blown, and my reactions stutter, stumble, settings put onto low. It is a quiet time. This I know. This I know.
Think back to when your mind was wild, when wires flowed, when circuits never threatened to expire.
I used to draw. Pen, paper, scrapbooks, until my fingers were raw. I'd draw. Blank canvas folded once and folded more. My mind became a mountain range. Think paper cutouts, backdrops for stage.
And you were the hero, holding the flag?
At the highest peak, flag in hand, yes. Until the clock struck past and playtime ended. Now my mindscape is something more, unintended, something forgotten, paper scrunched up, bunched up, downtrodden.
You wake up to sun on your face.
I wake up to sun on my face, my eyes still pools, a canoe glides at slightest pace, breaking empty words like icebergs on the surface, so many words in surplus. I yawn to let the sun in, muscles aching, jaw and chin from nighttime, teeth grind in morning, sun sublime, sun sublime. For many a time I'd sit by a bright window, blazing sunbeams into mind, detailing landscapes of paper mountain mine. Every footprint, every birthday, every loss, and every win had its place in this mountain range within, and when it rained I hid in its caves, tracing sketches from my previous days, and words snaked down in rainwater from its peaks and leaked from my mouth and let me speak. Yes, it gave form to word and made it complete, so I could speak as far and long as any city street, as any salty plain or desert bleak. I could release my joy from mountaintop, watch it float, then feel it drop into honey sweet. In snow I took from its plights to make my bones strong. It withstood the frost, kept on singing its winter song, but now my range is sort of gone.
And yet
I awake today and yawn and take the first sun. Yes, I've taken some time, a sum of time to realign, taking walks, lighting candles in this cabin in the middle of the woods. Day 1, I drive to the forest. Day 2, I stop for lunch, a long lunch, a lunch that lasts a whole day. Day 3, I think about tea parties. Day 4, I visit the national park. Day 5, I drive down to the coast to forage for sea herbs. Day 6, I cook a meal with the few sea herbs I foraged. Day 7, I swim and swim and swim. Today is day 8.
And you step outside for your first breath of fresh air?
And I just stop and stare. There's this mountaintop there, right over there, straight ahead. It seems new, like someone dropped it from a height. Across the lake, crystal clear. It's the peak that has caught my eye behind the pines, because on that mountaintop right there...
Take in the fresh air. You rub your eyes, you take in the fresh air.
I'm there, flag in hand. Listen, understand, I'm there. I'm there with no paper to climb this time. Rocks and ravines are scraping the sky. Sun's light on my skin. Fresh air I'm breathing in, and words come flooding. Jet stream demudding as though released. I feel gigantic, heroic, sun-blushed and alphabetically stoic. It's a quiet time, I had thought, but I reconsider. These birds are loud and are singing with rigour. I feel weightier, organic, tree-like bigger. I am at ease. I watch the seasons pass with quiet glee. Standing on this solid peak, I will prevail and I will speak, no longer hiding in my paper caves. I am a mountain brave.
He tips his hat across the lake, and with one swift movement in this strange green domino effect, the sensibilities that he'd carried around stack on top of one another. His scribbles blurring with speed. Twigs rise up from the ground to surround in circular motions. He feels proud. He feels housed. He takes his hat, throws it down to the lake where it ripples. acquaints itself with its surroundings, and floats at the surface, as it will do for many years to come.